got upset by Utah State, and their quarterback, who had multiple left shoulder surgeries, re-injured it and quit. So there goes Utah's starting quarterback, and they will have to find a backup and another backup for the rest of the season. So certainly interesting things going on in Utah with the Utes. So those are the college football rankings. As for the ranked teams who are playing, a lot of people were looking at this as a potential upset for Alabama, but after losing to Louisiana Monroe, I don't think there's any chance Arkansas is going to take down Alabama, even though it's at Arkansas. Alabama visits Arkansas on Saturday. You know, last year, this was a huge game. It went into triple overtime, but last year Stanford had Andrew Luck, and they simply don't have Andrew Luck anymore. I expect USC to get a win at number 21 Stanford. Idaho at LSU. Out of the loving kindness of my heart, I don't think Idaho should bother making the plane trip to LSU. I'm not trying to offend anybody here, but the final score might offend somebody. Tennessee Tech, same thing. Stay in Tennessee. They visit number 4 Oregon at Oregon. Idaho and maybe Oregon and LSU should play each other, and Tennessee Tech and Idaho should play each other, because there's no way that Idaho or Tennessee Tech is going to go into LSU or Oregon and get a win. Wake Forest at Florida State. Wake Forest is that ACC team who seems to get an upset at least once a year. And, they've had good football teams in the past. They are 2-0, but I don't see them taking down Florida State at home. Florida Atlantic visits Georgia. That should be another blowout for the Bulldogs. UAB, a 33.5 point underdog at South Carolina. James Madison, an FCS team, visits Geno Smith in West Virginia. I ask you, the fan, hit me up on this chat thing we have in the bottom right corner. Is West Virginia going to score 70 points? That's the over-under this week for West Virginia, for me. They scored 69 against a good Marshall team who won a bowl game last year. Now they're playing a D1 AA team. I expect them to put up 70 points. Geno Smith, you want the Heisman, you put up 70 points. Notre Dame visits number 10 Michigan State. Another big matchup. Both teams 2-0. I'll take Michigan State in this one. Notre Dame looked really good against Navy. Not so good against Purdue, even though they got the win. Michigan State wins at home against number 20 Notre Dame. Furman visits Clemson. Another game that's going to be a blowout. Cal visits Ohio State. Cal lost to Nevada the first game of the season this year, and then gave up 33 points to Southern Utah University. Ohio State's going to be wearing out the scoreboard at home. They will beat Cal. Virginia Tech visits Pitt. Let me tell you something about Pitt. Moving to the ACC. Maybe they should move to the FCS in football. They lost to Youngstown State the first week of the season. Got embarrassed against Cincinnati week 2. Gonna get embarrassed at home by Virginia Tech week 3. Prove me wrong, Pitt. Prove me wrong. Tell me you belong at the Division I level. Tell me you belong at the BCS level. But until then, Pitt, you are my worst BCS team. Moving on. 14 Texas visits Bo Wallace and 2-0 Ole Miss. I expect this game to be actually pretty close, even though Ole Miss already matched their win total from last year. 2 games. Both teams 2-0. Texas takes this one in a close one. North Texas, poor North Texas. They opened the season at LSU. Now got to go to Kansas State. Kansas State goes to 3-0 and beats North Texas. TCU visits Kansas. Kansas just lost to Rice. Charlie Wise can only do so much for this underachieving Kansas Jayhawk football program. TCU with their first win in Big 12 play. UMass, another new team to the Division I FBS level, is going to get smashed against Denard Robinson. Michigan hasn't looked great, so maybe I shouldn't say that, but I think Denard Robinson will break out of his little funk and have a good game against UMass. That game between Michigan and Massachusetts, 17 Michigan. I think they'll get the win. Another third game this week. That's between two ranked teams. Florida visits Tennessee. Both teams ranked. I don't get why Tennessee's ranked. Florida, week 1 didn't look good against Bowling Green. Did look decent against Texas A&M. Good enough to squeak out a win. Tyler Bray's been great for Tennessee. Don't get me wrong. And this is a real toss-up game in my opinion. But I think the Gators sneak out of Tennessee with the win. North Carolina visits Louisville. Louisville's going to go 3-0. Houston at UCLA. Houston's 0-2. They lost to Texas State. Why would I waste my breath over this one? They scored 49 points and lost last week. Did Houston to Louisiana Tech 56-49. UCLA just came off beating number 16 Nebraska and getting ranked for the first time in a long time. Call it what you want it, but UCLA is going on upset alert this week against Houston. David Pyland and the Cougs have a very strong passing attack, one that UCLA is not going to see until they play USC. Watch out, Bruins fans. Houston might be returning the favor on UCLA this year. I'm putting UCLA on upset alert right now. South Carolina State at Arizona. Arizona's going to win. BYU, finally, this is the last game we're talking about. BYU at Utah. BYU, definitely a good team. They're ranked. Utah, definitely a good team also. Even after losing to Utah State, I think Utah comes away with the quote-unquote upset over number 25 BYU. After the break, we will be joined by Travis Neff of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I think I said that right. But yes, Travis Neff will be giving us his input on the MLB races as well as the Cardinal struggles. Obviously, he resides in St. Louis and covers the Cardinals for a living. So you're going to want to hear his input on that. When we come back, Chris's Corner, Spreaker.com. Baseball segment with me, Chris Sylvester. We're going to be talking about the standings. We're going to be talking about the schedule for the 2013 season. And we are going to be joined now live by Travis Neff of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Travis, welcome into the corner.
Glad to be here, Chris.
Well, definitely excited to have you, and I'm sure the fans are just going nuts at home knowing that T-Raw, Travis Neff of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, is on live. I want to get to your strengths first. Let's talk about the National League. Washington looks like they're going to hold a 7.5 game lead over the Atlanta Braves. Cincinnati looks like they're going to hold tight in the Central, 10.5 over the Cardinals. And San Francisco looks like they're going to hold 6 games over the Dodgers. So it looks like everything is good and ready to go in the NL, but then we look at the wild card and it's kind of a mess. The Cardinals and Braves share the 1-2 spots. The Dodgers only a half game back, but it just seems like the Cardinals, the Dodgers, and the Pirates don't want to play baseball right now. I mean, they've been struggling so much lately. What is attributed to these three teams' struggles?
I'm not really sure. It just seems like neither of these teams have any life in them. The Dodgers went out and acquired all these players and have still been unsuccessful. The Cardinals' offense has decided to stop scoring runs. And the Pirates look like the Pirates of last year again. And right now I don't see either of the three teams making the playoffs. I honestly can see the Philadelphia Phillies storming back, now only 3 games back. And they could make a run. They have a very good pitching staff, and they have a pretty deep team, even though they traded away many of their players.
I know. I was looking at the standings earlier, and it seemed like just a month ago, and it was just a month ago, that the Phillies were a team that were 10 games over 500, 10 games under 500, and already looking ahead to the 2013 season and what moves they were going to make in the offseason to bolster their lineup, bullpen, and rotation. But this team has won 7 in a row, 8-2 in their last 10 games. They are now a game over 500. I mean, why is this team all of a sudden starting to click? Is it because of the Cardinals' struggles, or is it just that, the light has finally come on in Philadelphia, and it's crazy? This team really does have a chance.
Well, you see it almost every year. Last year you saw it in the Cardinals being 10.5 back and making the playoffs. This year I think it could be the Phillies. They have a great team. They have solid pitching, Cliff Lee, Roy Halladay. I mean, they have Ryan Howard and Chase Utley. You could only wait. The beginning of the year seemed like a failure for the Phillies, but you could only wait so long before they started to win ball games, and it seems like now's their time, and they're going to keep playing very well.
I mean, that's very true. Like you said, the Cardinals just rode that hot streak all the way to a World Series last year. I mean, this is just... I mean, you see teams that struggle like the Cardinals did last year and then make runs, but I don't think I've ever seen a team like the Philadelphia Phillies who, sold off players, key players, like Shane Victorino and Joe Blanton, and I'm sure there's a couple others that were traded away as well that, can't seem to think of right now. But, I mean, I don't know if I've ever seen anything like this. The Brewers also 3.5 back. Do you see the Brewers making a run?
I do not see the Brewers making a run. I don't think they will be able to keep playing this well. I mean, there's 4 teams from the NL Central all competing for that one spot in the playoffs, and I don't see the Brewers or the Dodgers making the playoffs.
Yeah.
I see Philadelphia or the Cardinals holding on to the last wild card spot.
And if you had to put money on it, do you think Atlanta is gonna win that game, that play-in game, whether it's against St. Louis or Philadelphia, or does it vary?
I do think it varies, because if the Cardinals were to play at home, I think they would definitely win the play-in game, but they have struggled all year long on the road. Philadelphia Phillies, however, have not played as bad on the road, and I could see them winning a game in Atlanta. However, I don't necessarily see St. Louis winning on the road in a play-in game.
Well, I mean, they certainly have struggled lately. The Cardinals are 3-7 in their last 10 and just got swept by the San Diego Padres. So definitely something to watch there with the Cardinals. Obviously, you do cover the Cardinals, being part of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. I mean, what's been why have they been struggling? I mean, obviously they were a team that lost a lot. They lost their manager, they lost their pitching coach to retirement, and they lost the face of their franchise, Albert Pujols. But first of all, the first question that we had was, why are the Cardinals so good? But now that we were accustomed to the Cardinals doing so good, that it's almost like, why are the Cardinals doing bad? Like, what's been the biggest attribute to their struggle?
I feel there's no energy on the team anymore. Early in the year, they were struggling. They got swept by the Dodgers. Then John Jay came back into the clubhouse. He provided life. They went on a hot streak. Right now, the only way I see them getting